Come with me to a magical place where being labeled the pork queen is a compliment, where being nice is just a way of life, and where all leaders of the free world must pass through. Welcome to Iowa. Whether you're a current Iowan, an Iowa expat, or an Iowan at heart, this show is for you. This is the Iowa Podcast. Real Iowans, real talk, no drama. I'm Justin Brady from the Jethro's Barbecue Studio. Today, is your water dangerous or is it safe? I know that's like old school, like 90s TV journalism, but depending on who you ask, it's like the most dangerous thing you can possibly drink. And if you ask other people, it's like water flowing from heaven and nothing could possibly be wrong with it. So we're gonna have that discussion today with Matt McCoy, Polk County Supervisor, talking about water quality, common myths. And you guys also have a campaign that maybe there's an article in the Register about it, about encouraging people to drink tap water. We'll talk about that too. But thank you so much for coming to the Iowa Podcast Studio. Really appreciate it.
Well, great to be here.
So actually, right off the bat, why don't you grab that mic and bring it a little closer? Okay. This is my fault, everybody, because I did not prep the room like I should have. Okay, cool. There we go. Perfect. Sorry about that, everybody. So let's walk us through this. I read a Register editorial about there's a new study. Polk County found that lower income people and immigrants and refugees are more likely to drink bottled water versus tap. We'll talk about water safety. We'll talk about that stuff in the water, but I want to understand what this study showed first.
Sure. So essentially, this Water for All campaign was actually conducted between Des Moines Water Works and Polk County. We engaged the University of Iowa for the study, and their research department essentially went out and interviewed refugee communities and immigrant communities, and what they determined was there was a high proportion of them that had a distrust for our water systems and water quality. And as a result, they were spending an excessive amount of their personal income on water, purchasing bottled water as a result of this distrust.
Sure. And so do you know why that is? Because I know that in richer households, I don't know if that's the right term, but in richer households, this isn't as much of an issue, according to just the research I did. It might be in that study you guys have as well.
Yeah.
Why? What's the difference?
So it's primarily better educated, more affluent individuals spend less money on bottled water because they have a general trust for our water systems. Most people are familiar with the Safe Drinking Water Act that was signed into law in 1974 by the EPA, which essentially indicates they're tracking at any given time 90 potential contaminants in water, and it's Waterworks' job to deliver safe drinking water to every household in central Iowa that they serve that meets EPA standards. And so most people know that when they go to the tap to fill their water, they're getting safe drinking water by EPA standards.
So tell me about, let me reframe this. When we started traveling a lot, I was a little shocked that many countries, not all, many countries just think it's weird that people in the U.S. drink tap water. Don't drink the water in Mexico. Well, full story is Mexicans don't want to drink the tap water either. Like everyone thinks that, their bacteria is different. No, they actually don't drink their tap water. They go buy water. Many countries do this. And actually some European countries, they'll give you like filtered water. And so is it a matter of refugees and people coming to the United States in their country, wherever they're from, it's just simply a no-no. You don't drink the tap water, and that's just the knowledge they bring with them?
Exactly. So it's their country of origin and the history of that country of origin. And if their country of origin had suspicious water at any given time from the tap, then those individuals bring that with them when they come to the United States, and they still have that general distrust for the water system and tap water in general. And it had become such a way of life for those individuals in those countries to purchase bottled water that they continued that practice in the U.S. even though it was costing them a lot of money. On average, it's 240 to 1,000 times more to buy bottled water than to take a drink from the tap, like I do every day. And so for every bottle of water that an individual purchases, that's less dollars they can use for other essential needs when they come to the U.S. And so we're really wanting to break down those barriers, because here in Polk County, we have 47,000 people that meet the immigrant or refugee status. In other words, they're new to Iowa. And so they're bringing those traditions and history of distrust of the water systems, and as a result, spending a lot of their money, up to about $100 per person per month on bottled water.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of money.
Wow. Okay. So tell me a little bit about the education process. Like, is there a desire to educate people about tap water simply because we're trying to save them money, we're trying to get them on a better economic path, or are there someone who's critical of tap water or water fluoridation or things that are added into the water may say you're getting paid off, you're getting some incentives to do that? I don't actually have any information that's true at all, but I'm trying to think of what would be the person who's against tap water? What would they be saying? Because I know that Jennifer Terry, I believe, was interviewed about, Polk County project manager, was interviewed. She was really irritated about bottled water ads and marketing tactics that indicate tap water is unsafe or dirty. So would someone say that Waterworks' motivations should be questioned?
Yeah, so what I'd say is, obviously, since the Safe Drinking Water Act was actually signed into law and put into effect by the EPA, that was done to create a national standard which establishes the practices for testing and monitoring of water.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
To ensure that the public can be comfortable and safe using tap water. The practices by marketing companies were analyzed as part of the U of I study, and what they found is there was certainly implications that our water isn't safe, and that that we should be distrustful of our water. As you know, on the issue of fluoride, that is a whole nother rabbit hole which we could go down. But essentially, there are folks that are anti-fluoride in the water system, and in some communities, they've petitioned government to take fluoride out of the water, even though the American Dentistry Association has widely embraced fluoride and have proven time and time again that children's teeth are so much stronger and so much better cared for by improving through fluoride dental care, that it's had a great impact on saving individuals a great deal of money and a lot of pain in the process by putting fluoride in the water. So again, the marketing that is done to immigrant and refugee communities, and I've seen it at Costco. There's a lot of push for bottled water at Costco, delivered water to the home,
and in-home filtration systems,
in-home filtration, and a lot of I think implications that what you're getting from the tap really isn't good enough for you, and this EPA standard isn't high enough. But in reality, it is, by all standards, a completely safe product delivered from the tap by Des Moines Water Works.
So as far as you know, there's no incentives going on in like Polk County or Des Moines to fluoridate water. There's no kickbacks, nothing like that. No. It's just 100%. We're trying to do what's right here. We're trying to help those in poor communities to save some money.
Exactly. And so for the folks that need to know, I think the strategy for us as government and as community leaders is to try to get information out to these communities in a way that's culturally sensitive and is appropriate for how to address their concerns with their country of origin and what they encountered, which are sometimes less than optimal practices in water filtration.
So here's where I stand. I want my bias to be out there and open. I filter my water at home. The reason I do it is because I read all the studies, I read all the back and forth, and my current conclusion is I have no idea. I don't know whether fluoridation or additives are good. I don't know whether they're bad. I'm just going to filter until I learn more information. That's my opinion, and it's not me coming down on one side or the other. That being said, I'm sure you're very aware of this. There are lots of campaigns, like you said, to remove fluoride and questioning tap water practices. Some louder voices recently, of course, the MAHA movement, but the Dr. Huberman on his podcast, and then he had Dr. Staci Whitman recently on the show. It's still in black and white. I checked this morning. He actually says on the website, they talked about water and tap. They say verbatim, for most people, it will be healthier to filter their tap water. That's literally on the website. He said it in the show. And their primary concern is just stuff that's being added, primarily fluoridation, and I think what they call DBPs, which we'll get into here in a bit. And then Whitman on a recent show said, I've seen these bags of fluoride, and I can't remember their specific names of fluoride. She's like, and they actually have skulls and crossbones on them. And so this is the information that people are hearing. And so do we know if fluoridation is safe, and are we reevaluating it? Because I have medical people in my family that are like, it's absolutely safe. It's smart for the community. But I have others that are like, this should be questioned. So are we reevaluating whether fluoride should be added or at lower amounts at least?
It's probably been one of the most studied issues outside of some of the vaccines that have been analyzed as it relates to other health topics, and it consistently comes back that the good of fluoridation far outweighs the bad of fluoridation. Again, there are people that have indicated that they have concerns, but there is no data that proves that fluoridation has done anything except reduce dental costs and improve the quality of dental health care for both children and adults. So I don't know what to point individuals to on that topic other than to say that I think that what I would encourage anyone to ever do is to talk to your dentist about whether he believes or she believes that the fluoride has been a net benefit to the community or a net negative. And I think that by and large, most reputable dentists in our community endorse and embrace fluoride in the water. Now, I understand a lot of individuals have installed these reverse osmosis systems in that removes the fluoride from the water. And in those cases, dentists have made recommendations to individual patients about how to increase their fluoride through other means. But again, since fluoride has been added, there's been a dramatic improvement in dental health care and hygiene as far as individuals in our community, and that's what I would rely on.
And I will say, to be clear, fluoride's naturally occurring. You'll find it in river systems without any additives whatsoever. There are some river systems that are actually considered unsafe to drink because the natural levels of fluoride are too high. So it's not a matter of natural or unnatural. It is a matter of concentration.
Absolutely.
And like you mentioned data and research, and there's lots of new data. As you correctly stated, it's being heavily studied constantly. So there is some data now that over 0.5 milligrams per liter may be a concern for thyroid function. I believe the CDC recommends a 0.7 milligram per liter, and I believe that's where Water Works
Yes,
tries to hit.
that is.
That being said, sometimes it does fluctuate. It's very difficult to keep it perfect all the time. It's water. It's constantly moving. So Water Works sometimes will fluoridate up to 0.85. McMullen will 0.91, and then the Lewis P. Moon well, I believe we tap into that when water levels are low.
Yes.
That can get as high as 1.4. So is there concern at Water Works and is there an effort to maybe lower those rates to get them under that 0.5 new threshold?
I honestly don't have the correct information other than to say that their standard does meet the safe drinking water safety standards that are imposed through that 1974 Act, and they do try to make sure that they're within compliance at all times. And I think over the last, I was interested in this statistic, since 1980, they've only been out of compliance on like 30 different occasions.
There's like the recent one was 2017.
Yeah,
right?
2017 was the last time they had fallen out of compliance. And when they fall out of compliance, it's generally just for a day, and it's generally, something isn't quite perfect with their system. But again, since 2017. So for more than 40 years, Des Moines Water Works has been delivering safe, clean, and certainly effective tap water to the residents of Des Moines at a very low cost. And I think meeting the standards of EPA as it relates to those 90 contaminants.
Yeah, and the research, obviously everybody knows I do a lot of research before any guests come in here, and the research indicates that it's not really a nefarious kind of debate. There's not like, someone's trying to mass, fluoridate the water supply and get everyone addicted on chemicals. There's nothing crazy like that I know of. Maybe, right. I don't know, maybe you have like a Bentley in the garage that no one's ever seen. I don't know. But what it seems to center around, the fluoridation debate and additives in the water seems to center around scientific debate. And like a healthy scientific debate, not necessarily one side's bad or one side's good. Like I said, I know a lot of medical professionals in my family that debate and discuss this issue on both sides. And they're both very brilliant people, like very brilliant people. There is a Canadian study. I want to get this in here too. Recent Canadian study. This was cited by Huberman Lab in one of their shows as well. Andrew Huberman's Stanford, one of the heads of ophthalmology at Stanford. And for those that don't know, I've dropped this just several times and you may not know who that is. There was a Canadian study they cited. Again, these are early studies, but it shows they tested women against fluoridated women. So those who were drinking fluoridated water, those who weren't, and the IQ scores of their children were lower in those drinking fluoridated water. We don't know why that is yet. This has to be studied, but is this something that Water Works is continually looking at though? Like, is there a debate even at Water Works in Polk County? Like, should we lower it? Should we get rid of it? Are there any plans to maybe get rid of it or maybe lower it? Or are you guys, is Des Moines Water Works right now set at, you know what? CDC says 0.7 milligrams per liter. That's what we're sticking with.
I think they are taking their guidance from CDC and continuing to. I went through the Des Moines Water Works Water Academy, and they're continuing to implement the best practices as prescribed by CDC and EPA. And so I think as long as those standards don't change on a national basis, they'll continue to look at any relevant changes that would come down from CDC or EPA on those issues.
What are some common myths? Because I'm not going to say that's just research I've been studying,
right.
But what are some common myths that Water Works maybe gets calls, maybe you hear directly from people in Polk County? What are the myths that you hear often that just absolutely don't seem to die?
Well, I think one of the myths is actually a reality. One of the things that came out in the study that I actually think is pretty relevant, a lot of individuals reject the water based on smell, odor, or taste. Or color.
Which makes sense.
And so there is a perception if at certain times of the year, for example, in the fall, I notice more of a smell of bleach in my water. I drink tap water, by the way, and I don't filter my water. I drink it straight from the tap. But one of the times of the year when water's low and again, we're drinking surface water, you can taste the treatment in the water. You can smell the bleach a little bit. So people do have those. They have those aversions to sometimes the taste of the water. By and large, drinking water is very acceptable. I hear from a lot of I represent West Des Moines as well as Des Moines, and a lot of my residents in West Des Moines who don't have, Des Moines Water Works system water, say their water consistently tastes bad. So a lot of individuals in West Des Moines buy their water as a result of just not liking the taste, rejecting the taste, knowing that it's safe, but disliking the taste. So those are some of the myths. The other myths that I hear about often.
What's the myth, though?
The myth is that because there's a day where the water tastes more like bleach or something, that it's less safe.
Okay.
So just based on those personal preferences, that it somehow makes it unsafe. It's not unsafe. It's just that they're doing more to treat the water when there's a lot of leaves in the rivers and streams as a result of just Iowa. and then in addition, I think a lot of people look at we're mud river bottoms in Iowa, so a lot of people look at our rivers and say, well, the water's not clear. It's not. It's dirty, and so I think there's a perception that that it's dirty just because of these mud river bottoms, and so that really isn't that doesn't impact the treated water and how it's treated in the process that it goes through at the water plant to make it clean and safe and drinkable. We could actually treat used water or sewer water to make it clean and drinkable, and that's a concept that people struggle with. But through the cleaning process, you can actually reuse water over and over again, as they do in California.
It's interesting that you bring up the lakes and the river thing. There was we were talking with I don't remember who it was. I don't remember. We were on a boat tour somewhere. We were asking about just the water clarity.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, a lot of people don't know. Like the clean, perfect water you see that looks like your bathtub water or whatever, it's perfectly clear. He's like, it doesn't mean it's better for you.
Right.
He's like, what you're seeing when you get in areas that there's like a lot of muck and you can't see through it. He's like, you're seeing healthy water that has a lot of living organisms in it. He's like, if you think about that, it's healthy enough that living organisms can live and thrive in it. He's like, that's not a bad thing. He goes, different water, different ecosystems have different clarity and different colors because they have different living organisms and plant life that are growing in their water systems, which I was like, oh, I never thought about that. And he's like, if you really want some clear water in a particular area, pollute it. Put some harsh chemicals in it. It'll be really crystal clear.
Right.
I was like, no, that's a really good point. I never thought about it that way.
If you think about shocking your swimming pool,
right.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah. And you probably don't want to drink your swimming pool water,
No.
People probably don't want to do that. You do mention, the taste of water, and these are called DBPs, disinfection byproducts, I believe.
Yeah.
And sometimes that actually, as you noted, you taste maybe a little bit of the chlorine and stuff like that. Sometimes that does get into the water. So are those measured? Because some DBPs through tap in some cities, not saying Des Moines, can be endocrine disrupting. So are we measuring that at Des Moines Water Works in Polk County? And how do we measure that?
Des Moines Water Works is measuring that, and they're again complying with Safe Drinking Water Act of 1974 to make sure that everything they deliver to the tap is drinkable and safe.
So I have, like I said, I reverse osmosis my water at my house. Just our choice. I'm not recommending you do that. That is definitely, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a researcher, I'm not a biologist, and I can't make recommendations like that. There are plenty of things I do that may be stupid, everybody. But I do notice, and I don't know how calibrated it is, but I do notice at times when farmers are spraying more pesticides, spraying more fertilizers on their fields, I do notice the little ppm measurement tool on it, parts per million, does go up. And in the winter, it does like go way down to like 10 to 15 parts per million.
Yes.
And so when I see that, just as a normal Polk County resident, I'm like, okay, so if I'm reading this correctly, the water is changing seasonally. Is that from runoff? Is that from agricultural byproducts getting into the water? Is that an increase in treatment, DBPs or chemicals used to treat the water? What do you know what that is?
No, I don't. What I can tell you is that I do know the water, the times of the year create a lot of anxiety for the directors and the scientists at Des Moines Water Works, and that are constantly monitoring and constantly checking the levels, and depending on how high the rivers are, how low the rivers are, that has an impact. I know one of their greatest concerns are always these algae blooms that we run into when we're in drought and the rivers aren't moving. And so you actually can get into some really poisonous conditions, in which case they switch from the raccoon to the Des Moines and then to the aquifer if they need to after that. But again, what I will tell you is that based on these river levels and the conditions, as you indicated, heavy agricultural times, those nitrate removal systems are running all the time. We have the largest nitrate removal system in the world. So we're removing nitrates every single day from our water. And again, what I will tell you is 99.99% of the time, the water that comes out of the tap is meeting all the standards for the Safe Clean Drinking Water Act of 1974, and that's kind of their gold standard. But you're right. There is fluctuation in that water supply, and there's challenging times when those scientists at Des Moines Water Works are working overtime to make sure that the quality of water that they're delivering is within EPA guidelines.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's something that I know Iowans care a lot about. Pesticides and herbicides have been in the news a lot lately. Agricultural runoff has been in the news lately. And of course, cancer rates are sky high.
Yes.
We had Senator Tony Bisignano in here the other day talking about the glyphosate Bayer bill, the SHIELD law, and why he was against it. Democrat Senator Tony Bisignano, good dude. We enjoyed that conversation. And so I know that people on both, this is not really a political issue that I know of. It's like people on both sides are having this debate. It's a good debate, and we should have it, and we should keep monitoring our water quality. And I will say about bottled water, the part per million of a reverse osmosis system at your home, if you want to continue using tap water and we still use a lot of tap. We use a ton of tap water. We just RO it. So if you're concerned, there are systems that go under your cabinet. You can RO your water. They're extremely inexpensive to maintain and buy, and you don't have to continually buy bottles. And I will say, like, bottles aren't exactly all they're cut out to be either. Bottles have a lot of problems too. Bottles have plastics, and I think it's there's like a lining, the plastic linings in bottles that if heated past a certain point get into the water and you get microplastics. Bottles sometimes can range between 100 to 300 parts per million. So it's not like bottles are the solution either. So that is unfair. I agree with you guys that it's not fair to paint bottles as the savior of water, because sometimes bottles can be worse in many cases.
There are some forever chemicals, you're right,
Absolutely.
in those that as a result of drinking those, especially because you don't know what warehouses those have sat in,
yes,
and what temperature they've risen to, and unheated, uncooled warehouses
That's a great
as well.
point.
The other thing I will say is,
I was going to say, please, final thoughts from you, please, as we wrap.
Bottled water is the only thing that the EPA doesn't regulate. So
Really?
so
That's
that
great.
is probably one of the most important conclusions that I could leave you with. If you want to be assured that the water you're drinking is safe, tap water or reverse osmosis systems, because you're taking clean water from waterworks with the reverse osmosis system and actually removing fluoride and other contaminants that fall below EPA guidelines. But the one thing that is unregulated in our country and in our state is any bottled water. It most of the time it is coming from a tap source of water, and it's gone through some type of filtration system, and they stamp their name on it. But again, that water is never measured for EPA standards as it relates to a safe product for the consumer to buy.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, because it's absolutely true. It is a myth that bottled water is just the safest thing ever. It's not. It comes down to do your own research. What are your health concerns? What do you care about? Do your research on your tap water. Those numbers are available. They publish the milligram per liter on the website. And I think the additives and everything that they do put in the water and why they're putting it in there, is that available easily? Is that easy to find?
Yes, it is available to find, and they'll be happy to share that. Again, my history with the Des Moines Water Works through the Water Academy is they're very transparent about what process they use to measure the quality of their water.
And we'll make sure to put that on our website so it's easy for you to find that information. Of course, the website's iowapodcast.com. Matt McCoy, Polk County Supervisor, thank you so much for answering the tough questions and coming in the Iowa Podcast studio today. I appreciate it. I know the listeners do as well.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And to my fellow Iowans, Iowa expats, and Iowans at heart, thanks for listening and subscribing to the Iowa Podcast.